All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I do ask that if you are going to be speaking today, when you come to the podium, speak into the microphone as well as sign in. We just need to make sure that we have everything and everybody's name who's going to be speaking at the meeting tonight. We want to make sure that I can identify you when I am doing the minutes. So I would appreciate that. So state your name, sign in, and speak directly into the microphone, and we should be good to go. All right. I think we have the full board here now, so I will turn it over to Chris to get it started.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to the April 21st DRB. First order of business is to review and approve the last month's business minutes. Anyone have any comments or changes to those?
The minutes are perfect.
They are perfect. We have a perfect.
I make a motion to approve the minutes
All right.
as presented.
We have a motion for approval.
Second.
All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? He's on the phone. All right, minutes are approved. We don't have any signs on the agenda. And so first order of business is 106 Boone Street. Applicant, please come forward and state your name and your role in the project.
So this is a request for revisions to the previously approved church there at 106 Boone Street. Basically, the prior approval required a soldier course of brick just below the second story window wrapped along the side of the building to provide a visual break in the facade materials. This was a condition of their final approval. Also concerning the site, a sidewalk was shown on the plans adjacent to the building, and the ground-based mechanical equipment was not shown on the DRB set at the time of approval. The building reverted to a prior elevation during construction with the addition of the steeple on the top of the building, and these changes do require DRB approval. Give me a second. So this was what was approved by the DRB at the time. There's the soldier course here under the second story windows facing the front. Originally, the steeple was not part of those plans. They did add that back during construction. What ended up happening is when they added it back during construction, we went to an older version of the proposed elevations. So the soldier course changed, as well as the siding underneath the gable here. It was horizontal siding. We ended up with vertical siding. Those are the major changes. There's also some with that front carport issue. And as I said, let's find a good plan. There was a sidewalk that was shown wrapping around the foundation of the building. That was not installed per the plan. And they did just get the parking lot paved properly. They did install a walk for handicap accessibility purposes. The majority of the parking lot will remain gravel. They did put up a screen for those mechanical equipment, and you can see here when the picture was taken, that front was not quite finished yet, but this is lacking the soldier course across the front, etc. So as I said, it is up to the board to approve those modifications because they were conditions of the final approval.
All right. Well, welcome. State your name and your role.
I'm Rich DiTullio, RDT Contracting, General Contractor.
Pastor John Miller, I'm the pastor of Emmanuel Baptist.
And Deacon Ronnie Griffin, I wanted to Deacon.
All right. If y'all just want to kind of explain what's up, and if you want to just elaborate on what Tim said, that's fine too, but just.
I'm a little confused on the issue of the soldier course above the windows. Because we did install soldier course over. all
You
the windows.
installed soldier course actually above the window.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be under. When you look at you're supposed to have one at the top of the window, but you're supposed to have a double set of soldier course running across, horizontally across here, where my cursor is here. That is not on that building. It was also supposed to be on this side here.
Oh, okay. I see. Not above the windows. You're talking about that break all the way around?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't even remember seeing.
All right. Anything else y'all like to add? Okay. Okay. Well, let's open it up for discussions. We'll start down there on the end with Matt.
As much as I don't like plans getting approved that don't get built, I'm not entirely sure what they could do now without taking down the entire facade. I think it's a good looking building overall. I think you did a good job out there.
All right, Hart. Bill.
I think it looks good. I'd let her roll.
All right, Candy's got a head nod. Yeah, we don't want to necessarily condone, anybody listening, don't want to necessarily condone changes of architecturally approved things, but we will, without any further comment, anyone have a motion?
Make a motion, we approve.
A second?
Second.
All right, we have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, thanks. Don't do it again. Amen. All right. Yeah, that's not to set a bad precedent. Don't expect that if you change something. If you do change something, make it mundane. All right, second on the agenda, 601 North Main.
So this is a request for preliminary approval for the addition of a freestanding freezer to the property located at 601 North Main Street. This is the Checkers at the corner of 78 and North Main. This had previously been to the board twice, I believe. Both times the board had recommended that they come back with better screening options than just landscaping. I did include in your staff report the minutes from their last meeting for your guys' reference. They did deny preliminary approval at that time with the request for additional screening and more architectural or finding a different location for it.
Okay. If applicant wants to go ahead and say your role and name.
My name's Mark Johnston, and I'm with BQSR Bakery, and we actually have the model, the delivery model that uses the bun freezers. There's actually one right down the street at the Wendy's right here. We do a lot of Wendy's and Checkers around this business. So yeah, I think when we originally came out with this in 2018, I want to say, we had looked at using a parking space, which, you know, obviously got shot down in a hurry, and moved it to where it is. Kind of talked about some landscaping things and some different ways to try and aesthetically make that a better picture, if you will. And as you mentioned, I think it went down the second time as well, doing kind of the same thing. So we've looking at it by not taking up the parking spaces now, actually go ahead and wrap the freezer in Nichi-Ha paneling, so it looks like a finished product instead of a corrugated metal box, if you will. Also take landscaping, and we can go, I know it's not on there, so I guess I'm kind of going to ask for your opinion. We can go on all three sides. So where the two sides show of landscaping right now, we can go along that drive-through lane as well for a third side, if that's something that you would want us to do. I like the appearance of the box with the Nichi-Ha paneling on it versus the corrugated metal that's on it standard. it does look, it looks like a much more finished product. We also will extend that up above the top of the freezer to cover the condenser on top, so you're not looking at the condenser as well. So everything will be covered. We're not going to take up parking spaces. And I think from a, I'll say beautification aesthetic standpoint, we're in a much better spot than we were when we came in here a couple of years ago to try to do the same thing. We'll stop there and let you guys go from there.
Okay. We'll start down here with Candy first.
What color is it going to be?
It can be, it comes white because
The
the
siding you put on, what are you?
it could be white, it can be any color as well. The color scheme for the checkers and rallies is red, white, and black. White being, we have about 800 of these across the United States with checkers and rallies. 780 are white. There's 20 that are gray. That's a new accent color for checkers. So some people have decided to paint theirs gray. The Wendy's, we have about 4,000 at Wendy's, and they're all the dark brown color. When you drive behind a Wendy's, you'll see the same box sitting behind a Wendy's. So what color scheme really, the Nietzsche hot paneling can be whatever color you deem would be acceptable.
I think that it needs the 3 sides of landscaping as well, not just 2.
Were you talking about 3 sides of landscaping or siding?
Landscaping. Yeah.
Okay,
The whole box would be
Good.
wrapped other than the door.
just for clarity. Okay.
And then in that picture that's up there, yeah, we could come down that third side with landscaping there beside the driveway.
Okay. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Bill?
No, I think that would be fine.
No comment.
Matt?
What's the species of plants you're using for landscaping screening?
I think in what our contractor sent over to the planner here was Japanese yew, just because they get to about 6 to 7 feet tall and would cover the bulk of that anyway. So my next question was, do you really need it wrapped in Nietzsche hot paneling if it's going to be landscaped in and you're not going to see it anyway? So that was my question for you if we ever got that far with that. But that's the shrub that she was going to use. So just because of the height.
Okay. Anything else, Matt? All right. There any trim, like corner trim, parapet trim, that kind of thing to kind of for the Nietzsche hot to die into?
It all is completely.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
yes,
come on up.
we can make this thing. So if you think corrugated, so that's the gauge hot paneling. So it looks more like a truly flat finished, flat. And then if we extend it up above there, you're not gonna have that black. And then again, 20, 21, 25.
The white color was the white color would be like, you know, the sign. Background of it, that's exactly each other. So it's easily washable, that's part, and then farmer plate, that's inside.
All right.
Do you want to see that? Just so you, it's kind of like almost a flat finish.
All right. So as far as the board is concerned, do you have a preference between the white and the gray?
I like the gray.
Okay. We got a gray. Looks like we're 3 for gray. Yeah, I would also recommend the gray. Okay. Any other comments? Any motions? Fighting for it.
I make a motion that we approve what they've presented with the siding or whatever the material is that they put around it, that it be gray, that it be extended so we will not see anything on the top of the unit, and that 3 sides will be landscaped with the Japanese yew that
Okay.
you've mentioned.
We have a motion with comments, motion for approval with comments.
Is that final approval? Just want to make sure.
Yes.
Final approval.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. We have a second.
I'll second.
All right. Any other further discussion? All All right.
Thank you.
Oh, oh, hold on a second. It could go south so fast.
It's trying to get out.
Yeah, it's like.
I gotta get to the airport.
You never know what's going to happen right there. All right, so we have a motion and a second for approval with comments. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All
Done.
opposed?
You can go.
Now,
Thank you.
congratulations.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, appreciate it too. All right. Third item on the agenda is 450 Azalea Square, the canopy for Target.
This is a request for preliminary and final approval for a new canopy for online order pickup area in front of the Target store at 450 Azalea Square Boulevard. The applicant has provided updated plans to reflect the changes requested concerning the landscaped island at the end of the canopy. That was really the biggest issue I think that the board had at the last meeting concerning this.
All right, so state your name and tell us what you got.
Yeah, my name is Trolley White. I'm with Kimley Horn. What we're looking to do here, same as last time, we're expanding the drive-up stall area, adding in some extra pickup spaces there for online ordering as described, along with adding in a canopy overhead covering up those stalls, as well as just some safety measures really, and there's some additional striping, ramps, as well as the middle pathway for the employees to walk through rather than having them walk through the drive aisles and everything. They'll be walking through the middle aisle and some kind of wayfinding signage, identification signage out there, so they know what spots everyone's sitting in, and such. But that's generally the gist of it. It'll involve some restriping of parking stalls, as well as now there'll be an end cap island on the planned south side of there, just to kind of.
You guys sent it over. I have it. I think it's in the next.
Sorry, there's a large portion of stuff. There you go. I think one more sheet over will show it. There you go. Yep. So we have that end cap island there now, just to buffer the end of that canopy and drive up stall area. That generally covers kind of the scope of it, but I'm happy to answer any additional questions.
All right, thank you. He did have an elevation.
Similar to elevation.
I think I scrolled past. Give me a second.
We had the rendering drawing last time, but I do have a printout of it as well.
It was in there.
It sent over quite a few things.
That's the closest one I got. I thought I had it in there. I apologize.
There is a drawing of the end elevation somewhere. Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I apologize. I only have one copy.
It's all right. We're framed.
Gas pumps.
Official recommendation.
I'll bring that one up with them and see if they're willing to dive into that.
All right, while they're looking at that, the one thing that kind of bothered me about this, actually, as far as canopies go, it's I think it's pretty nice. The downspouts are like the most prominent thing that I think you see. If those columns weren't boxed out in red, I mean, that's all I see is downspouts. Is there any other way to address those? I know that's a complicated question because you're trying to get water off the roof, but
Yes, the red is pretty standard for them. It's more of a branding color there.
that doesn't bother me. It's the downspouts.
The downspouts.
Mhm.
Are the downspouts red?
No, the downspouts aren't red.
Oh, okay.
No, the
It's just the
downspouts.
downspout.
Okay, so
There's such an overhang between, from the column on out. That's why.
well, I
It
understand.
is what it is.
I understand. Doesn't make them attractive. But I get that if you want to keep water off of cars and sheet, waterfalls off the sides, then you gotta have something. Okay, let's start down here with Matt.
How wide is that? I love the idea, but how wide is that sidewalk down the middle?
Down the middle, it should be about 5 feet.
Okay, so how do you reduce 18-foot parking spaces by 2.5 feet each and not have the cars out into the drive lane?
I would admit these, it would involve site surveying and such and get those dimensions out there, but the striping itself should allow for the width. Those stalls are, I forget.
Well, I'm not worried about the width of the spaces. I'm worried about the length of the spaces so
Yeah.
that the tail end of the car is out in the
I
drive lane.
apologize, I said width. So,
Is there a median or something down the center of those
No.
parking stalls at this time?
Not currently.
It's gonna be converted into a sidewalk versus a 5 feet.
there,
So you have a median on the one in the left. A platted median.
I don't believe that there is a median right now.
Well, there's not, I don't think, because you can see the parking spots where the stall is, and there's nothing there.
So, I mean, right now we're showing 18-foot stalls. And so what's out there today, I can't verify what's out there today right now, since we haven't surveyed what's out there. And so presumption is the stalls are striped out more than 18. And so that 36-foot width would still be preserved.
You're showing a 25-foot drive aisle, which is ample.
Yeah.
More than ample, really.
Yeah, you're getting a 25-foot drive lane because you're shortening the parking spaces 2.5 feet.
To 16,
But-
15
Well,
and a
you
half
can't, it's still got 18 feet for the parking spot, so
I think you do.
what do you do?
So
What
it
have
looks
you
like,
got?
it looks like your existing parking on this drawing, Tim, if you want to zoom back in where you were. Looks like your existing parking on the left and right is 18 foot.
It does.
And so it's dimensioned 18 foot. So assuming that's the case for the parking that would be under the canopy, then it would really 18. Then that would,
That'd be 18, that'd be 18.
right, that 18 would be meeting at the center line instead where that B is.
So you're gonna have about 14-foot parking spots. When you go to the parking bumper that you're showing there, you're losing 2.5 feet,
Matt's point.
and then you need another. Foot and a half for the bumpers.
I mean, the option is also then to remove that inner walkway. And that distance back.
What do you think, Matt?
I like the walkway. I think it's certainly safer for the employees, but
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of the rear bumpers being in the drive lane, which they surely will be. Particularly if you have a SUV or
That's a great point.
larger vehicle.
Right. Well, assuming a car fills that space and overhangs the front tire stop, then that 2.5 feet is going to be sticking out the back into the drive.
You'd have to make that drive aisle one way. What's the minimum in a parking lot standard detail for a one-way drive? 20 feet? 16 to 18. So you'd have to change your drive aisle to one way, which would make it safe. Then you could have 18 foot. You could get it, but you'd have to be one way. And I think that's the only. I
I
think that
think the
would be
option
a,
of striping one,
it'd be a striping.
really striping a southbound and a northbound on each side.
Yeah, you'd have to just put directional arrows that are very obvious.
I do think that's your option there. That satisfied?
I don't think it's a great fix, but sure. I don't think it's a fix that people are going to actually follow.
I don't think they'll physically be able to get by if it's two-way traffic. They're gonna hit each other.
So Bill, to your point, wouldn't it be better to have this canopy with the center walking lane moved over to the landscaped island? Where you actually have
I think that makes a
8
lot.
feet down the middle?
Yes, sir. I think that makes a lot of sense. get rid of the landscape aisle, move this over one bay so that you don't run into the issues that we've just discussed. Like Matt said, just get rid of that landscape strip.
So with
Make it
that
parking.
situation, we'd be required to then mediate that landscaping elsewhere on site though?
I don't think you can.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't think that you can.
That was the point I was going to bring up. I don't know that we want to officially recommend losing landscape in a big
Okay, yeah.
parking lot like that.
I know that we're removing an island with the current design, and that was the thought of adding it back at the cap is to get it back. And if we were to shift it over, I'm not sure there's anywhere on the site you can make up that strip there.
Well, and I would say angled parking would definitely encourage the one way, but anybody that's been to the post office knows that that doesn't always work.
Yeah, but once the consumers who use it get used to it, they'll get used to coming here and go out the other way, you know.
Mhm.
I mean, it'll be a learning curve.
Right.
For a while.
Art. Anything on top of that?
No.
Okay.
I still like that idea, just get rid of that landscape. Nobody's gonna miss it.
Except the town of Somerville.
It's not a work of art.
Our reviewer may.
It ain't beautiful. It's all brown and dead. Look at it.
All right.
Do that.
No, I don't think that's something that we can do.
Well, it's not there by ordinance. It's not an ordinance
Because that wasn't.
ordained requirement that you have that landscape strip.
They did that by choice and the plans were approved, so they need to maintain what was existing and what's out there. So,
Well, we have the authority to change that because it's not an ordinance.
to a certain extent, they still need to meet the minimum requirements and
Well, they
their
are doing
approved
that.
plans. So if their approved plans are going to change, yes, you can approve that to change. But they would still need to mitigate for the loss of those trees. Those trees are 20 years old. They're decent size. And they'd have to, according to the ordinance, mitigate for 100% of the caliper inches lost. So if they lose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 36 inches. If they're planting 3 trees, that's 12 trees. They got to find a new site for on site. It's not particularly feasible. The site is well landscaped for a shopping center of its age. I give them credit, and the current ownership has done a good job maintaining it and keeping it where it's at. So I don't think we really want to advocate for the loss of additional landscaping. So if there's a way that we can, work with the drive aisles being what it is, your standard 2-way drive aisle is 24 feet. You can go down for 1-way to 12 feet. That's the minimum you'd want to go down to for a 1-way drive aisle. Probably maybe 14 feet for some wiggle room for larger vehicles. That being said, that is something that you could potentially request in this situation, but I don't think we want to push it to the other side.
Well, they're losing 4 trees by destroying 2 islands with 2 trees apiece with this layout as submitted.
I believe you only take out one island.
They're taking out 1 island and proposing to put a new
Well,
one back.
Well, they're taking out the island that's there, but we asked them to add an island at the last meeting to cap the whole thing with an island. So,
But they hadn't done that.
It's in here.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
That particular, it's in this next plan set. Oh, I went too far. You can see here, they're going to cut in a new island, and that will be required to be landscaped appropriately.
Why don't we cut to the chase and say, yeah, you're gonna put that island in as shown on this particular drawing and reduce the travel lanes on both sides of this drive up down to 16 feet or 14 feet.
I think I'd rather lose a sidewalk down the middle.
Huh?
I'd rather lose a sidewalk down the middle
Or just gonna do away with the sidewalk down the middle? Okay.
unless they can demonstrate how they can get an 18-foot space in there, which is also a town requirement. Lose that sidewalk down the middle.
Well, they can get it in if they eliminate two-way traffic and change
Yeah,
the
but-
drive out.
That's not. a
Well,
good-
I
that's not
agree
a
with
good-
you then. Well, let's get off the case and say, okay, lose the sidewalk down the middle
Lose the sidewalk.
and then move on.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
What's the purpose of the sidewalk? Were you gonna have personnel walk on the sidewalk and make the deliveries rather than be in the aisle?
Going down the side, yeah.
Doesn't have to be eliminated completely. You could go down to a 3 foot, 36 inches is your minimum passing.
I think the existing parking spaces are
More?
18 foot, so it'd be 16 and a half.
No way you're getting 18 feet there.
And this one shows a 4 foot,
4-foot wall.
18, 25, 18.
I think if we knew that those were 20-foot spaces,
They're not
going to that.
20 feet.
That's Park
No
District.
shopping center in the history of the world has done bigger spaces than what was required. They, I mean, they grew 4 feet somewhere.
And all the rest of them are already shown in this drawing to be 18 feet.
Yeah, so I say lose the sidewalk or redesign it.
All right, so they are asking for final approval. If it seems to me that when we're asking, if we're just asking for removal of the sidewalk down the middle, that's an easy thing to review and approve if y'all are willing. If it's changing the flow of traffic, then it doesn't seem like something that should not be looked at. So if there's no further discussion, does anyone have a motion?
Let's make a motion that we remove the 4-foot sidewalk, that we maintain the 25-foot drive aisles, that we maintain 18-foot deep parking spots, and that we install parking bumpers within those parking spots.
All right, we got a motion with comments. Anyone like to second or add to that?
I'll add to that, if they can demonstrate that somehow this one parking lane is wider than 36 feet, then, I mean, keep the sidewalk. I think it's a great safety feature, but I'll second the motion as Bill proposed it.
So with the contingency that they can demonstrate existing conditions
Correct.
meeting an extent that this kind of plan is possible?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion with comments, some additional comments, and you seconded?
Yes.
All right, any other discussion? All right, let's put this to the vote. All in favor of the motion and comments, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
All right.
So the motion was amended?
Yes,
It was amended. It's just not with comments. It's amended.
the motion was amended with
So
the
we need a
addition
motion
of,
For the, we need to vote on the motion. And we
Yes.
need to vote on the amendment.
okay,
Okay,
that would be fine.
okay.
The motion, as it was for final approval based on the comments. And the amendments to the motion, the original motion was that you remove the sidewalk, but the problem was that the amendment was that you don't remove this, that you do remove the sidewalk or don't. And so basically, with this comes demonstration in the amendment that you can demonstrate that the existing dimensions facilitate you matching this plan. If they
That's
don't,
acceptable to you, Bill.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
all right, that's the motion, and the amendments. All in favor of the amendments, as stated, say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
All right. We
That
have
was like yes or no.
4 yeses and 1 no. The motion carried. We look forward to seeing some existing dimensions out sent to the town, and we can take a look at them and make sure that this is possible as drawn.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, I got one.
Next on the agenda is 602 Bacon's Bridge Road, Starbucks. Mr. Boshane had to recuse himself. So Elliot, state your name and changes that were made from the last submittal.
So this is a request for final approval. This is the vacant Rite Aid store in front of Sawmill Village. Just to go over the details, small freestanding 2,500 square foot building with a 560 square foot covered patio. There are 15 stacking spaces from the start of the line to the drive-through window. Staff has determined that the pedestrian route from Bacon's Bridge through the site into the shopping center meets our minimum requirements, and an accessible route is not specifically required by code. So that route does not have to be accessible, to clarify. The landscape plan has been updated to meet the minimum planting sizes. The building is consistent with the overall design guidelines, utilizing brick and black metal canopy with brackets that echo the proposed brackets on the Harris Teeter canopy.
Elliot. Welcome back.
My name is Elliot Locklear. Doing the site engineering for the project. Our architect not able to be here today, so I'd like to read into the record his comments on the architectural. The following list outlines revisions made to renderings of the proposed Starbucks shell building per comments received on February 17th from the Town of Somerville Design Review Board. Additionally, we incorporated the landscape design provided for our office on April 1st. So that was when I completed the landscape plan. So that landscape plan here is incorporated into the rendering that you will be seeing. To assist in the DRB's final review. So I've got 5 bullets for that. So the brick color was adjusted to better represent the existing shopping center brick. Only comment from me on there is that it's a given from day one that the brick on this building will match the shopping center brick, even if it was white in this diagram. Okay. The freestanding brick columns at the covered patio were reduced in width to improve the proportions. On the front face, a brick insert was added on the right side of the patio to add visual interest. On the drive-through side, go to that, Tim. Go. The exterior wall sconce locations were adjusted per the DRB suggestion. Also at the back of that side, the height of the roof ladder was reduced to allow omission of the large cage and greatly reduce the visual impact. Unfortunately, we couldn't find an acceptable location for an interior access ladder and hatch. I'll stop at that. Any comments on the architecture?
We can do that. I will say that I appreciate the architect's comments. The number one way for an architect to demonstrate his intent is to draw it that way. So anyway, any other comments on the architecture? Okay, let's talk about the site.
Okay, on the site plan, the landscape plan was instead of just showing that there are existing plants there, they are all identified and numbered, how many are there and the type. See, the existing planting around the perimeter is a little lighter than the new plantings. So at the bottom of your page there along the Bacon's Bridge, East Carolina, Trolley side, there were some abelia, I think it was, that's been pretty scraggly. They're not doing very well. We're looking to replace them with what you see there with azalea to plant and create the hedge. Was the comment from Greg, I think it was his name, that want to screen visually the parking spaces from the road, so that will create the screen. And you can also see between the drive-through aisle and the parking spaces that faces the bottom of the page as well. Those, you've got another row of dense shrubs, boxwoods up toward the front to keep them kind of low, and then the Dorfitosporum, they are at 3 foot on center. They'll get 4 foot across, so that should be a very thick edge. Same thing with the azaleas out at the front. They are 3 foot on center. Once they grow 4 feet in diameter, they'll be solid hedge. That should satisfy the concerns of this ugly old building being seen from the road and its parking spaces. Nothing else has really changed on the landscape plan other than maybe a more appropriate size of the plantings. The camellias that surround the patio, they can grow as high as you want them to grow. Ones in our yard are 10 foot tall. We also have some that are 3 feet tall. It's a matter of maintaining them. If you go back to the rendering, Tim, you also have those camellias going down the side of the building. That was the last revision, was that those align with kind of those window spaces. So if they grow tall, they won't block out the sconces, but they'll kind of be centered in those windows. And when it gets down to the far end beyond the windows, they'll be, there's one directly in front of the electrical panel and then another one down there by the ladder. So again, trying to screen some of the mechanics down there. I don't know if there's anything else I want to add. You have any questions on it?
So I think one of the comments at the last meeting was that the landscaping along the road would kind of match up and be sort of a continuation of what the Harris Teeter
Okay.
was doing.
Do you have the pictures that I forwarded to you, Jim?
With the new gas station.
Okay, the new gas station will be the only thing on this property that does not match what's already in the center as well onto the other side. So the landscaping along the road, they have some weird. They have some grasses. The existing landscaping that's there under that oak tree beside the sign, the azaleas. Existing landscaping that is we're replacing with azaleas. The abelia don't do well there. The remainder of the entire shopping center has the grasses, the knockout azaleas, and crepe myrtle. So if you'd like to replace the entrance landscaping with what is at the Harris Teeter gas station, then you're not going to match the rest of the entire site. And those are the pictures I provided Tim to be able to be here today, or to show you what's planted in the rest of the center, starting at the edge of the Sunoco, going all the way through to the front door of the Harris Teeter, which are boxwoods and grass of tall grass or wheatgrass, whichever one that's called.
Okay. We'll start with Candy. We talked about the building, so anything with the site?
No, I think I'm okay with the site.
Okay.
Tim, what was the staff comment about the connecting sidewalk? It's not required.
It's not specific. It's not specifically required. They have an accessible route to a public way, which would be considered the parking lot. It doesn't have to come in and go out to the street specifically.
But
So-
they are required to have a walkway from
Good.
Trolley Road.
Yeah,
through.
for our ordinance, we require that connection. So that aspect of it, and our ordinance does not specify that it has to be an accessible route.
Gotcha.
So they meet code requirements to have an accessible route out to the public way, which is the parking lot. They meet our requirement to have a route to the street. So.
Sounds like that's been satisfied. Matt? All right. I don't have any comments. So anyone have a motion? They're asking for final approval.
I'll make a motion for final approval as presented.
Second.
All right, motion for final approval as presented. And it has been seconded. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Next on the agenda is 403 North Gum Street, new warehouse / workshop for light manufacturing. As you approach the podium, just state your name and your role in the project. But first, we'll let Tim give staff comments.
This is a request for preliminary approval for a proposed new warehouse workshop for light manufacturing and storage at 403 North Gum. This was last at the March meeting for conceptual review. Following our staff's comments, the new proposed smaller structure meets the required setback property line buffer. The updated plan shows landscaping and trees on site. The applicant has provided multiple color schemes for review. So you can move on down. As you can see, the proposed new building has actually shrunk significantly compared to the last outing here. This updated plan does show some additional new landscaping for both the proposed building as well as the existing, as well as showing the existing materials on site, floor plan, and then these are the potential color schemes, and there are some elevations as well as some photo options where we can walk through those, but I can turn this over to the applicant for you guys.
All right, welcome back.
Good evening, I'm Charlie Rhodes. And we just, after our meeting last month, we heard you all clearly that you really weren't real happy with the way we had presented it. And so we went back to the drawing board and decided to put a gable roof on the building, carrying a ridge from front to back, match sort of similar to what the little house has. We decided to put hardy plank and hardy board on the building. Colors that the owner would like would be birch and some white in the gable end, and then dark bronze trim on the corners and across the top. That's the colors that the owner would like to have. The building now is 1,500 square feet instead of 1,800 square feet. The roof is a 2.5 on 12 roof slope. Yeah, and last time it was 23 inches high on the high side, and we dropped the eave down to 12 feet, and the peak is at about 6 inches below the peak on the little house. With a 2.5 on 12 roof slope. I think this basically covers most everything at this point.
All right. Saw the site plan too. Start with Candy. Do you have any questions or comments for the applicant?
I appreciate what you've done, a marked improvement. It looks very good. I'll have to look to the other members for any technical difficulties, but I, for one, think it's a wonderful improvement, and I like the color selection that you like.
Thank you.
Okay, Bill?
I think it's fine.
Congratulations, Bill. Hart?
Are there any stormwater requirements with the addition?
It's not, based on the size of it, it's not gonna need it. They're not gonna be disturbing over a half acre.
Okay. No comments.
Matt? All right. Tim, could we see I think there's a rendering with the house or a picture of the house? Okay.
We can flip through the various colors. They have more.
Yeah. I think that I have two comments. I think I'd like to see the colors team up with the house a little bit better. That dark trim is kind of atypical for this. And what I'm thinking it might do is it might accentuate with the white hardy. It might accentuate the fact that that is a big white gabled end. And if it were all white, something along those lines, and kind of mesh the house a little bit more, it might disappear a little bit more.
The whole side of the house being white.
No, I'm suggesting that the trim,
Okay, that's fine.
the trim on the new building. Secondly, is and there are going to be some technical things like probably having to fire rate that wall. I'm not sure, and the bathroom didn't meet the code, but typically in a residential setting like this, when you have a gabled end, I'd like to see some overhangs, and I don't know how complicated that would be with this manufactured building, but some soffits and overhangs on the sides would make some sense in this setting.
It would not be much of a problem, put it on the gable ends. On the eaves, it's a little bit more involved. A bit more cost in the eaves because it's a lot more labor intensive on the eaves. But we can extend the purlin.
Understood. Okay.
And on your eaves, your gutters and downspouts are gonna almost create an illusion of overhang.
Gutters sticking out.
So your gutters and downspouts are gonna kind of take care of that, yeah.
All right. Those are my two comments. I'd probably stick closer to the color one than the overhang one, because I'm not, as much as we try to encourage creativity and design, it can be done within most budgets. We're not here to make buildings more expensive, just to be more appropriate for Somerville. And so, but I would recommend changing that trim color for sure. All right. And so, any other comments, questions? All right, any motion?
Make motion, we give final approval based on comment.
All right,
Comment being the the gable trim becomes white
Okay, we have a,
and the gables get a, say, 2-foot extension on the purlins.
okay, so the motion is there for, this is preliminary approval.
Is this preliminary? Let's make it final.
Okay. So you want to amend that?
Amend for final, yeah.
So we have a motion for final approval with the change in colors and extension of the eaves to 2 feet. Any questions or additional comments, or anyone want to second that?
Second.
All right, the motion was seconded. So any other further comments? In favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, congratulations. You got final
Thank you
approval.
all very much.
You're welcome. All right, next on the agenda is Martins Creek Townhomes. Looking for final approval for a 65-unit townhouse development. As you're coming up, Tim, you want to give the staff comment?
Yes, so the applicant is requesting final approval of a proposed new 63-unit townhome development on 5.29 acres. Property zone MFR, multifamily residential. And this is located off of Martins Creek Boulevard. The applicant must provide a mitigation plan for the preserved trees that will be impacted by the construction. I did speak with Chris Donato concerning that mitigation plan. They've provided a plan that shows the new trees to make up for the trees that are lost. The mitigation plan is to address the impacted trees and how they will prevent those trees from being killed by the construction. The town arborist has worked with other applicants on a written plan and approving that from a certified arborist. So that's what we're actually looking for, is a mitigation plan for the individual trees and how they'll be cared for with that impact. So they're working on that. Site amenities include a dog park, shade structures and benches. And the drainage plan shows a yard inlet and drain line running through the critical root area of a 18-inch water oak. This will negatively impact the tree, and an alternative route should be considered. I was told that that can be changed. The park and open space requirements are being met, and the requested renderings have been provided. The architecture and design of the proposed units meet the design guidelines. And the proposed elevations include horizontal and vertical siding, some brick and asphalt, and standing seam metal roofs. And they've brought some good examples. So I will turn this over to the applicant and allow them to go over the rest.
All right, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Sarah Moore with SiteCast, and we appreciate y'all's time today. And we have everyone here with us, the owner and the architects, and also we're happy to answer any questions. You've seen this before. We've made a few changes site-wise. You know, we went down, removed the 8 units, tried to lessen the grading on some of the trees, and that one drain inlet that's still left, we will certainly move with no problem. And we did submit a mitigation plan, like he said, for the trees that we were removing, but we will certainly work with the arborist on the additional requirements for the trees that are just impacted but remaining. And I know there was a good bit architecturally with the elevations and some of the samples we brought today. So any remaining questions that y'all have, we're happy to answer.
Okay. Anything with the site that you'd like to talk about, explain?
I think it's pretty straightforward. The only changes, like I said, we did remove the 8 units and then split up some of the buildings coming in to make that entrance a little more appealing, and then just the grading. So I think other than what y'all have seen, those are the big changes site-wise.
All right, well, let's move on to the architecture then. And if y'all want to come up and talk about that.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Michael Scratch. I'm principal with Southeastern Design Group. This is pretty much there were a lot of comments that we got on the initial preliminary proposal on things that they wanted to see in breaking up of the roof so that we didn't have large masses on the roofs. So what we did is we added some gable elements to break up the long continuous lines of the bigger buildings. As you see, we got a 3-unit, a 4-unit. I believe the last one is either a 5 or a 6-unit. So basically what we did is we took these gable elements to break up that line. This is also going to be on Martins Creek Boulevard. These are the 4, in the rendering, you're seeing the 3 buildings. The 4th one's a little bit out of picture. That's going to be the most visible ones. Everything else will be inside the project. If I can see the next slide. Okay, this is the first row on the back. As you can see, again, 3 buildings. I think we have a 5, a 4, and a 4. Is either, yeah, 5, 4, and a 4. And again, this is, we have 2 different type of products on the product on the first street on the previous slide that we had. Basically, that's what we call a double load product. So in other words, you have 2 entrances. You have one that's going to be on the Martins Creek side to add the design appeal, but we also have as much design appeal on the back side of it on those 4 buildings as well. And then on the interior, on these slides, on building 6, 13, and 7, which are representative of pretty much everything else that's going on in there. Again, we've used elements and pulled out areas to get some breaking up of the roofs, which was the biggest comment that we had. And then I believe, did we get comments on the colors? Or this is our first blush at them? Okay, this is the first blush at the colors. So. Again, we're trying to stick with, some of the most acceptable colors in the region, and so on and so forth. Do you have any other questions on the rendering aspects of it?
I do have a question about the porches. How deep are the porches?
Pardon me?
How deep are the porches?
Again, we had a lot of constraints on this due to the tree mitigation issues, trying to save as much trees. In addition to that, we also had to put a 1-car garage in it because we're trying to reduce the car impact that typically you see in these. By putting 1 car in the garage, if we're dealing with 2-car ownership, we're not dealing with 2 cars in front of the unit and a sea of asphalt or sea of concrete for the sidewalks. So with all the challenges that we had on the site with both the grades, there are a lot of grades that we had to deal with. The biggest porch depth that we can get, I think, is 3 and 5 feet is what we've got. We wanted to get deeper. I'd love to get deeper porches. There's just not enough room on the site for it.
Okay. All right, well, thank you. We can address the architecture or the site, and I'll just start down there with Matt. Do you have any questions or comments?
Yes, so that we're not getting just a constant sea, and we've done this by representation on the rendering too, where we have mixed all the buildings up so that there will be a different color on every building. We tried throughout the entire project to make sure that each one had a different view. Wherever you were at, you would see different colors on the buildings. There will be some that'll be similar when you're at a cross street or something like that, but pretty much when you're looking across the street or whatever, there'll be a different color building opposing it. And that's why we went with the 3 colors, but we also wanted to have some uniformity so that they would go together. So we don't have any bright yellows or pinks that would stand out. We wanted colors that would work together, but differentiate the buildings.
Okay, Matt, anything on the site? Tim, you want to show that site plan again? Turn your mic on.
Already been addressed. I thought we said the buildings were 6 units maximum.
That's the biggest one we have.
No, they have a 7. Do you not? That building to the left, is that 7?
Yeah, I think that they wanted to split that up, but because of the tree mitigation issues that we were running into. Is that correct? There was an 8-unit building. Yeah.
There are 7 driveways.
I think if you have 2 or 3 8 buildings, I know building 6 and 13 were 8. Oh, and also on the front street. So where we see an odd number 1 and then it goes to building 14, I believe. There was an 8-unit building up there, so we split those up as well, and reduce the density.
Okay, do you have a drawing of the 8-unit building?
I do not.
They don't have any 8-unit buildings.
They do,
You have a 7.
I'm sorry,
The-
the previous plan had an 8-unit building, and that's what they said they didn't want to see.
They don't have any.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. 7-unit building. Do you have a rendering of the 7-unit building?
We don't have a rendering, but we do have the actual physical. drawings of all the
I know we eliminated,
building. What building number was that?
The one in the front. Nope, sorry, building.
what I'm trying to remember out loud is, I remember we said no 8-unit building, but I also thought we said not to exceed 6 units. And maybe I'm wrong on that, but that is my recollection of the last meeting that we saw you.
Right, I don't recall the one that came 6, that I remember is no 8 units, which we removed the 2 of those. So just have the 1 7 left.
Any way to check that, Tim?
Was that?
Is there any way to check that while we're here? The last meeting that we had with this submittal. Uh, No. Right.
The suggestion was to get rid of the 8s and to look at figuring out yield versus saving trees.
Right.
The buildings removed, so let's just save as many of those trees as possible.
All right, Tim, it's all right. It wasn't at the last meeting. I just meant the last meeting they were here. Okay. So there's 1 7 and 2 6s and less. All right, Hart.
Do you have an elevation of the ones at front Martins Creek Boulevard, the rear?
I'm sorry,
Do you have a rear elevations of the ones at front Martins Creek Boulevard?
which building number?
I guess that's 2. maybe. Yeah, 114 and 2. That's the front that we just saw.
Yes, that's correct. Those are what we calling a double load entry.
Right.
So we actually reconfigured the entry so that you could enter off of that as well, and that increases the look that we're viewing at Martins Creek, which is the majority of what people are going to be looking at, versus going with a more simply rear end.
Right, but how does it look on the backside, I guess is what I'm
Right,
asking.
right there.
This,
Right
Yeah,
there.
so
Yeah,
basically on the
garage.
double load units, they're both look like they're fronts.
okay.
Bill?
I'm okay, period.
Andy? Okay. I have a few comments. Back to the first rendering, Tim. Yeah, there it is. I like the gable extension. I think if it's a gable extension, but it's flush, and I think if there was a little bit of an extension of that or setback of the wall, I understand that you're coming straight up, but it's very two-dimensional with a roof over it. If the fascia could extend out a little bit, I think that would be a little bit more pronounced. Second is having these windows so close to the corners is like the number one thing that I see, especially on the end elevation. It almost looks like the corners being supported by the windows, and that's traditionally very atypical. I know you're trying to get as many windows as you can on the second floor, but so you just you want to have 4 windows across the front and definitely have
Well,
those on the
actually, in
side?
this particular case, we were responding to the last comments that we got. Originally, we had basically 4 windows in every unit.
Mhm.
The initial presentation was, I believe, a duplex. So it was one of the duplexes. And they said that they were fine with that. So we went ahead and redesigned odd number of units so that we went to single units in each of those 2 bedrooms that are on the front. So that's how we got the variations in the windows, so that you didn't have basically in a 4 or 5 unit building, you have a whole row of windows up at the top. So basically we created another unit and then changed the windows in there to get the differentiation.
Okay. I'm having trouble connecting the tree mitigation with the 3.5-foot porch.
Only because of the overall depth. I think we were very limited on what we could do
Okay.
in the actual building depth. And once you go to a 20-foot deep garage that you're putting in, that's basically half your depth.
Mhm.
So half of the front of the building is basically garage and entry, or, garage and entry. And then your living is down the rest, and then the bedrooms are up. There's just not enough depth to go beyond that to put a porch in there and then make it a viable, livable unit.
On the other side. Mhm. It's,
There's no handicap accessibility requirements here then.
No, it's all gonna be done as basically townhome construction.
all right. Anyone have any comments on the colors? All right. Okay, any other further comments? Candy? All right. They are requesting final approval as submitted. Anyone have a motion they'd like to make?
Make a motion to approve.
All right, there's a motion for
Yes.
final approval. Is there a second?
Second.
And we have a second. Any other further discussion? Okay. All right, all in favor of the motion as it's stated, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you for your time, people.
All right, last in old business is the Old Trolley Road Car Wash.
This
All right.
is a request for preliminary and final approval for a proposed new Tommy's Car Wash on Old Trolley Road. This is located just north of 1515 Old Trolley Road, which is the CVS. Last meeting, they had requested preliminary approval, and the applicant withdrew the application before the vote. Based on initial review, the following are staff's comments. An address application is required. A tree removal permit and tree protection board are required. The proposed sign has an electronic message sensor, which requires DRB approval. The future address should be added to the monument sign. Generally, the design of the building is consistent with the design guidelines. Materials include brick and block metal panels, standard aluminum storefront windows, and fiber cement panels. At this point, I can turn it over to the applicant for comments.
All right, well, welcome back.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks for everybody's time this evening. Paul Lawler with Bowman Consulting, the civil engineer on this job. Thanks again for reviewing this case. Look forward to discussing this evening. Before we kind of dive into it, I did want to talk about site and see if there are any site related comments or feedback. I know in the past there hasn't been a whole lot there, so just want to make sure that from a site standpoint we're in a good spot, and then also talk about landscape, and then we can kind of dive into the building.
Okay. Tim, you want to go to the landscape plan? Okay. All right. so want to talk about any changes you've made regarding site or landscape?
Yeah, sure. At our initial meeting, the buffer between the CVS and the proposed car wash was kind of one of the bigger site and landscape comment. What we have, there is a drainage ditch that kind of runs between this buffer. So what we've shown on this plan is providing continuing that ditch that goes plan east back to the stormwater outfall. And then we have proposed some plantings between that buffer. And we have a remark here that can address all of the sites or specific plantings there.
Okay, that'd be great. State your name.
So I'm Steven D'Amato with Remark under JR. So a lot of the plantings that are along that strip of area, we tried to focus on all natives, just a couple of non-invasive exotics. We focused on providing a lot of evergreen trees as well as canopy to get that more dense look and screening that we're going for. Along the drainage ditch, we're proposing to plant some juncus, and the trees are, I think, I want to say they're either cypress and then some shoemart oaks, as well as some other species.
Okay. We can address the site and landscape first if you want, or we can just do it together. You have any site or landscape questions, comments? Matter heart? Okay. Nope. Okay, we can talk architecture.
So I think we achieved it this time. We were asked to try to meet the Mount Pleasant as most as we could. We extended, you want to go back? Yep, we extended both of those, all elevations and all corners to be flush with each other as opposed to setback. So we have 4 square corners there. We changed all the materials to brick. So the elevation on the left-hand side, which is our mat washing room, meets the same elevation height as the mechanical room we have on the opposite side. Then our towers are very close to being the same height. So we squared everything off to give you the 4-sided corner of the brick building that was asked. And I think that's as close as we could get with hiding everything. If you want to go to the end elevation, yep, you can see where it just squares it off. The eyebrow, we changed the colors to a black. We were able to keep our sunburst, but keep that with the black metal sections in there as well, but hidden as much as we possibly could do.
Okay. All right. Well, if that's where you are, then we'll open it up for comments or questions. Start with Candy. Okay, Bill.
No comment.
Court.
I appreciate the changes.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your all suggestions. So.
All right. There's a good bit of landscaping out at the street. Because the one thing that kind of still bothers me is the sunburst, but not enough to necessarily deny it. It's just so atypical of
So we did everything we
Somerville.
could with that sunburst, but that is a trademark by the franchise that they just are not willing to get rid of. That's why we I inset those into the brick so they're hidden as much as possible.
So are they white, or are they?
They'll be the dark metal. Well, we have the option right now. They're in silver, but we can do them in the dark metal. That is the same as the sunburst, or not the sunburst, but the beam at the top, black. We just thought there was more architecturally appealing with it, having a little bit difference on that.
Does that apply to the brick or what?
Excuse me.
Those white lines, are they applied to the brick or what?
They're inset in the brick, so it's a metal band that comes down.
So it's laid with the brick?
Yes,
Well, that'd be tricky, cutting a lot of brick.
yes.
That's so much better.
And you're doing the same thing to the right there with the grid?
Correct.
Yeah, right there.
Correct. Yes, sir. No, in the beginning, that was black with with the silver bands in it, and the top was the red. We just changed everything to brick and then inset that metal in.
So I feel like the grid and the sunburst are kind of fighting each other for attention. And I get the sunburst being part of the, the trade. Is there could any consideration be made to even removing the vertical part of the grid so that it maybe has a horizontal? There's just there's a lot going on
The
there.
grid on the bottom, we can't get rid of.
Okay.
We can't get rid of the sunburst, but we can get rid of the grid. And I can just do brick straight across right to them.
Anybody have comments about that?
Yeah,
It's good.
that'd be good.
All right.
Now that's we're looking at the rear.
The
This
entry
is the
side is
front.
the exact same, so I would do the exact same one.
On the other side,
Yes, ma'am.
so you get rid of the grid on the
Yes, ma'am.
front too.
Well, this is the front. That's where you exit
Well,
the front.
you exit at the front, that's right.
Right, you exit the
Okay.
front.
Either way.
Yep.
it-
Just pop right
Both,
down.
both ends would be the same.
both
Right.
ends would be the same.
Well, I too appreciate the effort put in to making some changes. We look at Somerville as a very special place. In spite of referencing Mount Pleasant's design, we know everybody looks at Mount Pleasant as a special place, and we do too. Each of these communities is unique in their own way, and so as you've chosen Somerville for this place, it becomes more of a community effort, and so we do appreciate what you've done. So having said that, are there any motions on the table? They're looking for, excuse me, final approval.
I'll make a motion for final approval as presented minus the lower grid.
Sir.
Okay. So there's a motion with comment
Second.
and a second. Any other discussion? All right. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. As opposed? All right.
Thank you,
Congrats.
ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Who seconded the motion?
All right. We are to new business 1505 Central Avenue, addition of a columbarium at KUMC. So it's a word you don't use very often.
St. Luke's. Or Trolley Road, Columbarium, man. I don't wanna do that.
Hold on a second. Do we need to go back and look at the sign?
Yeah, technically.
Right.
If you present it as, or if you approve it as presented, that would include the electronic message center.
Yeah, hold on a second, guys. We didn't present or discuss the sign.
You need to.
So your building so far so good, but we do need, sorry, sir. I'm a novice. We do need to look at the sign. It's fairly self-explanatory, but I do, the brick will, what's that? So what type of sign? A
It's
message board?
Message board, electronic. I'm opposed to that.
Not gonna do that.
Okay.
The
We'll-
rest
we'll-
of the sign's fine. If you could be half as big, you can probably get it rid of the message board.
Okay,
I mean, technically you did vote. What would happen is when they apply for the sign permit, it could come back. Or I mean, that therein lies my problem is from a legislative standpoint, reopening it up is kind of hard.
Sure.
We would need to address that separately, but
We're fine to solve it here.
just letting you know that signs are the purview of the board. So that aspect of it, I mean, we could put it under miscellaneous if you want to wait until the very end. and we could discuss the sign at the end. If you'd like, if somebody would like to make a motion to do that.
Okay. Someone like
To
to make
make a motion to review the sign at the end of the meeting? Is that what-
this meeting?
Under miscellaneous.
Miscellaneous instead of signs.
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we review the signs at the end of the meeting.
Second that motion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, I apologize for that. It's usually handled separately. And so, we kind of jumped the gun there. Yeah, and we're not looking at a lot here, as, no offense. It's not looking at like a lot of complications here. All right.
Columbarium.
Yes, Columbarium, 1505 Central Avenue. I was gonna wait till you got up here and said, wait, but there's.
This is a request for preliminary and final approval for a proposed addition of a columbarium at the Knightsville United Methodist Church. This is the first meeting. This is proposed to be constructed on the east side of the chapel building, being an accessory structure visible from the public right-of-way. The DRB approval is required. No other modification to the site or existing buildings are proposed.
Thank you. My name is John Barth. I am a trustee at the Knightsville United Methodist Church and been tasked to present this. If you want to say I'm the program manager for this for the church. Okay, you got the overview. This particular, you might go to the last slide, which is the old plot view, so we can see what we're looking at. One more. This is the overall plot. The little area in yellow is the area where we're proposing. We've always looked. Now you can come forward one, please, Tim. This area right next to the sanctuary has been looked at as a memorial garden for a long time, several years. Last year, I was approached by the church council and the head of the trustees to look into the Columbarium. And in that case, we ended up contacting this Blackstone Cemetery Development. Really, it came from Bethany has one there, vertical one. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I've spoken with Bethany and I don't like theirs, and they saw ours and they said they liked it. Now you can come forward if you would please. Let's look at what the actual design. This, if you can visualize, this is right next to the sanctuary. And come back two more to the vertical view. So there. This is the aerial view. The design is a semicircular, 2 sections. This is the 4th iteration we've come with Blackstone, because we wanted something that was not really visible from the road, was very unobtrusive, and really gave a sense of intimacy to anybody that wanted to come here. And come forward to the other 3 views, if you would please. What we did in the specifications we gave to Blackstone was it could not be higher than the base of the stained glass windows, which are at 53 inches. So this thing is only 4 foot high. We wanted the fence around it and the shrubbery that we're proposing. I have got a master gardener as a member of the congregation. She's tasked to come up with the shrubbery that would be as high as the fence so that somebody looking from the road would never even see the Columbarium. Only by entering from one of the 2 endpoints could you enter into the quote unquote garden. The design which Blackstone did has landscaping in the center. We're proposing a circular bench type thing with a little table type thing so that people could sit and reflect. That's it. I don't have any support. I'm the lone man here, the Lone Ranger, and did not realize. I thank you for your time, but it's been a lot of discussion, and to have something this close to the sanctuary and all this was some concern. And that's why we really went into consideration with Blackstone in coming up with a design that we felt was accommodating to everybody and was respectful, I guess is the word I want to use. And with that, I'll address it to any questions you have.
You've got room for future expansion, I see. Another semicircle.
Yes.
Within the
We can
fence,
actually
so
put
that's
160
good.
Niches, which
Yeah.
is determined sites.
Yeah.
Let's fill that first.
Do that
Yes,
first, right?
that particular
That's what
design,
Bethany did that. They
We could, if you go
put
to
it
the
in
vertical
2
view
before
again,
later.
Tim,
Yeah,
you could see that we actually have enough space to put one to the back of that. We could put another 2 units.
right.
I don't think we'll get that, at least.
I think this is kind of slam dunk.
Huh?
I think it's pretty much slam dunk.
Well, any question on
You got
construction?
questions,
or
Kyle?
I can-
What is the finished material on it?
The finished material is get this correct, it's an aggregate granite type thing. They mix it all together and precast it. See, come one slide forward. See if we can do it from that. With a vertical view. Okay, we could probably do it from this. There is actually 4 sections in each one of those circular designs. And that's the vertical plate. The horizontal plates, they literally cement it together. And then the doors are sealed on. The niches are I don't know, reflex. It's a glass type thing. And they are locked in with a special key. But it is a cast granite concrete mixture.
And the colors are true to what we're looking at?
That is what, yeah, if you look at Bethany's, that's the same design or same construction. They have theirs with an octagon, ours are semicircular.
Thank you.
And you said instead of what we're seeing as landscaping in the center is going to be a seating area?
I don't like the landscaping. I would rather have somewhere, what I had asked them is to put benches in there so that we could have some people be able to sit and reflect, because this is always wanting to be a memorial garden. Let's make it a memorial garden. Let's let people come in respect.
Well, the benches are not permanent anyway. Well, they
No, there's nothing, actually, nothing is permanent. And that was a question I have before the trustees. I have the whole discussion, and I do thank Bethany for all their input for their Columbarium on all the legal and everything else, because we've got a lot more work to do. I am here only to approve the concept and go press forward, because if you approve, you're giving me a lot of work to do.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Anyone else like to, anybody like to make a motion? They're asking for preliminary and final approval. I don't think that's a problem.
I'll make a motion to give preliminary and final approval as presented.
All right,
Second.
we have a second. Do you have a large street sign with anything on it that I need to be aware of before I go any further?
There is no way you would drive by and never know, except you'd see a fence with some shrubbery.
I'm
We're
just
not advertising this.
Very nice.
And
It does.
also, no,
Very well
that's all the trustees as far as who can be interpreted.
Okay. All right, well, we have a motion and a second for preliminary and final approval. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Time to get to work, right?
Yeah. In addition, he just gave me another.
Said nobody
project. Pastor loves me because I'm a schemer. Thank you,
job.
gentlemen. Thank you. Jim.
The second item under new business is an application for final approval for a proposed addition of a kiln, silo, and tarping station. These are accessory, well, two of them are accessory structures. One is a piece of equipment. Property zoned HI heavy industrial. This is the Interfor sawmill at 200 North Maple Street, not the 1505 Central Avenue that I have on the staff report. My apologies. The DRB has review and approval
Tim?
authority. Yes,
We need to take a
5-minute break.
Or 5, it depends on when he gets back, but we need to take a short break.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. He's gone. My apologies. We can listen to your, we don't need the break. He knows what's going on.
Yeah, okay, so
We don't usually have a board member just excuse himself like that. We will
I-
be all right without taking a break. This is pretty straightforward, so you can go ahead.
So to continue where I left off, the DRB has review and approval authority on HI properties. There are no design guidelines for industrial buildings. The silo is proposed to be 72 feet tall. There is no height limit on accessory structures in HI. The kiln is considered equipment and not a building. The tarping station is also an accessory structure. Unfortunately, these kind of got moved a little bit when I was saving the PDF. So these are just pictures, an example of the kiln and silo. Both would be visible from 78. This is the tarping station. And I think the only thing that's missing is the exact location on the tarping station. And I think that was because it came in second. And what I've done is I combined their two applications into one. So I can see if I can get you a better view of that if you guys are interested. It's heavy industrial. It's like the only heavy industrial property that we have.
All right, if you want to go ahead.
My name is Tommy Purser. I'm the project manager. I work for Inter4. Basically, he went over some of the topics that I was going to talk about. So I did want to introduce myself. The city here is very gorgeous city. I see why now with all the arbor stuff you do. And then also, this is a big $50 million project we do on the Inter4. And so this is just one phase. Not sure how many permits we'll need from you guys. But anyway, thanks for your time today. This is the engineer Cal Fisher. He will be addressing any answers you guys have.
Yeah, my name is Cal Fisher. I'm with Foresight Group, civil engineer for Tommy and Inter4 in this project. Yeah, it's pretty much self-explanatory, just seeking to modernize some of their equipment. So I'd love to open it up for questions that y'all may have.
All right, the 72-foot silo would be visible from Highway 78. How about Maple Street? I mean, 72 feet, so.
It's gonna be visible from
Pretty
just
visible.
about anywhere,
Correct.
any of the streets.
I was just,
What does the silo hold?
The silo holds the fuel for the kiln. What's the exact?
So this is a drying kiln for lumber?
Mhm.
So you got, is this taking the place of the kiln you got now or what? Totally new line? Yeah, okay. I'm your backyard neighbor. That's what I was wondering. I'm 2.5 acres behind you across the railroad tracks. It's oil fired, I take it?
yes, it's a slow grade burn.
Okay.
All right. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I mean, the second kiln he talked about, there's no conceptual plan or anything for that yet. That's just purely hypothetical in the future if they do decide to add that. But yeah, nothing else I think we need to add at this point.
All right. Candy. What can be said? Matt?
Is there an overall site plan? We can see where this sits on the. There you go. Yeah, that's not helpful.
So this would be Maple 78. This is where the kiln is going. Where's the tarping station
Tarping
going?
station, if you go to the left, I'll follow your mouse, keep going left and then straight down, right. Yeah, it's gonna be right on top of that, that road in there. I have a hard copy of it if y'all want me to grab that.
I'm just curious. No.
Yeah, it'll be right over on that side of the site. Do what?
Aerial's not making sense to me. I'm not picking up Maple Street.
Maple Street's on that right side. There's, yeah, there you go. That's Maple Street. Top of the screen or north of the screen is gonna be that west mid North Street. Mhm.
See your office, where my office is right there.
Are you right to the south there?
Yeah, right.
Alright.
You want to see the silo from your office?
Yeah, I want to see it all because I think it looks great.
Sounds like a vote of approval. All right, any other comments, questions? Okay. Anyone like to make a motion?
Make a motion, we give final approval.
All right, motion's on the table for final approval. Any second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. Any other further discussion? All right. All in favor of the motion for final approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right,
Okay, thank you all.
motion passes.
That was hard.
I'll call tomorrow to discuss that because I just combined the two applications that you guys put in. So
Most likely the only 72-foot silo we will approve for a while. All right, under miscellaneous, got a sign for Tommy's Car Wash. Thank you. We're sorry for that. We just kind of jumped in the architecture and it looked good. So we were like, we want to go forward, but we did miss the sign. So appreciate your flexibility on that.
Before you eliminate all of the electronic, we'll just have the one black Tommy's Express with the car wash, if that's fine.
That's correct.
And the brick will match the building.
Yes, sir.
The the coping on the sign is tan. Is there anything tan on the building?
Not in the building, on the wall along the road that we had to use, we did the same brick and I was just looking at the buildings up on the Harris Teeters and all that, as I said
Okay.
before. And we just came up with the tan coping to break it up and give it a little bit of character. But
Okay, well, it
yeah,
visually match.
suggestion-
Well, just making sure it visually matches up with something. So are you going to reduce the sign to half of what is shown here or?
The average sign, that's what I was looking at in the back, the average sign that they do on the side of the building is 96 inches. So that's would be my suggestion is we do 96 inches centered and then do a foot and a half on both sides for the brick. And I do stand corrected. On top of that, how we came up with the tan coping or light beige coping on top was in between the brick. After you have your about 36 to 48 inches, we had a band of that capping because we have a cap along our base of our windows. So
Mhm.
that'll match that same coping.
I don't think you can have a sign more than 96 inches, 8 foot. I think that's by ordinance.
Okay. Yeah, it
So
won't
he
be
said
any bigger.
it's UCMX, so it's 6 feet tall, 36 square feet per side.
We'll be within the
What do you
regulations.
say?
We'll pull the code and we'll be within the regulations. We
Yeah,
will
that's-
be at the edge of the regulation.
That's what it'll have to be.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
And so all it'll have on it is your Tommy Express Car Wash and emblem and all.
Correct, with the car wash underneath that one, that's
You'll
on.
move it to the center of the sign.
Yes, ma'am.
that'll be on both sides. Okay. All right, any other questions?
Is it interior illuminated or does it have light shining on it?
The ones on the building, they light behind it. That just light up where it says car wash, the white area, just so at nighttime they can see it. Which is the same on the building.
All right.
We are approving the signs on the building.
Yeah, we've already done that.
Guess we kind of implicitly did, didn't we? Okay,
Talking about kind of-
I will still make sure that they meet the size requirements.
course.
So
Okay,
yeah, that's fine.
good.
Do we typically break those up or did we just plow forward?
yeah, the DRB's purview more is on the location and appearance of the actual sign. From a Supreme Court standpoint, you guys have no say over what it says at all, and neither do we. So what they have here and what they're presenting, as long as it's meeting the code requirements and the appearance section of our requirements, that's about all that we can write. So as long as it's set 10 feet back from the property line, meets the bulk size, et cetera, that's what we can regulate. I mean, it's technically, according to the US Supreme Court, a form of free speech, quote unquote. So it's very difficult to regulate signage content.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would recommend car shower or something like that. So I think we're in good shape. Okay, any other further discussion? Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, sir, just
Okay,
once we're done with this, I just have one question.
okay. All right, I'm sure you're getting used to coming and ready to stop coming into this building for this. So anyone have a motion for the sign?
Make a motion to approve as amended with the comments.
Okay. And those comments, of course, obviously are removing the reader and centering the sign and meeting the ordinance and the colors matching the building. Any second?
I will second that motion.
All right, we have a second. Any other further discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, building and sign.
Thank you, guys.
All right, you have a question?
I think my partner, I just wanted to ask, since we got to this point with our building, we have quite a few more properties that we've gotten. Are we good with this building?
So, no.
Not on the record, not on the record.
Yes. We'll need to come back for a site specific.
Sure.
So I know that's not great news, but
I guess really you see a hiccup with this design as far as we've gotten outside the signs, outside of this, but with the design that we've come to this point, would you see much change?
The building needs to match the neighborhood. So we like that building, that location, and it's nothing like it for another location. Architecture.
But site specific, everything. Context is great, obviously. A lot of times, make things better. The context of the bar is right. So, personally, I like the way it works with sideways relative or parallel to the main street. But that's very possible that
Sure, and we do try to run them as much as we can parallel with the street because the building speaks of itself, so.
Yeah, so just
We won't. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
all right, you too. Tim, do you have anything else?
No, I have no other items.
Okay. All right, we have a motion for adjournment.
Motion, make a motion.
All right, seconded. All in favor of leaving? Say aye. Aye. All right. Thank you.